Hello, hello, welcome back to Bethel Be Reading. It has been a hot second if you do follow along on this channel since I've posted a video. I don't want to say haven't because I'm not going to at this point. I did not do a September reading wrap up because the end of September, early October was very chaotic. And the reads that I had in September, there were some really good ones, but the rest weren't enough for me to feel passionate about, just have the urge to try to make it work. So we are here for October's reading wrap up. I'm so excited to share. There were some really good reads, there were some really meh reads, there were some bad ones. So we have a full array of opinions to share for the books that I read this past month. I'm really starting to enjoy audiobooks, so a few I did listen to an audiobook. I've been using Libby. Shout out to Libby. Shout out to Libby. I've been using Libby for audiobooks, my Kindle, and then physical books, a mixture of those. So with all of that said, can't wait to get started. I'm going to first, so this is the stack of books. So these are the physical books I read, and then I'm going to kind of go through first the audio and the Kindle books that I read. So with all that said, we are back, we are here, and we're going to get started. So the first book that we're gonna go over is Margot's Got Money Problems by Rufi Thrope. This is a new release. This came out, I think, in September. And immediately from the title, I knew it was something I had to read. Margot's Got Money Problems. Same. So I was like, let's get started. I didn't even read the back. I just kind of got started to it. So you star Margot, who, she is 19. She ends up getting pregnant. The father of her kid is her professor. And, you know, he ends up not being around. So the reason she has these money problems is because she decides to keep the kid and is raising this child. And in the midst of her raising this kid, she is going through some money problems. Things keep getting worse. If you ever read A Series of Unfortunate Events, I feel like that's what this book was. Margot's got money problems. Margot's got problems. Margot's got money troubles. Whatever. It just, essentially what Margot ends up doing is she makes an OnlyFans account and she starts to have her problems, dare I say, solved? Dare I say temporarily solved? And the way that Margot speaks and you go through her thoughts as she's going through these things, it's really fascinating. It's just so quirky. It's such a quirky book. Like, her dad was a former pro wrestler, but not really like in the way that you're thinking. Or no, he wasn't a wrestler, but he was in the wrestling world. I can't recall like exactly what. And then he has other kids too, but then he ends up living with her for a little bit. It was a 5-star for me. It was a 5-star for me. It was definitely a 5-star. I definitely would recommend this. I think everyone should read this. Or maybe not everyone, but if you are someone who knows what it's like to go through some financial hardships and knowing what it's like to go through financial hardships and kind of almost getting to a point where you will do whatever it takes to get out of it. It was good. It was good. So I definitely gave that a 5-star. The next one is I Accidentally Summoned a Demon Boyfriend by Jessica Cage. So I had started reading this in September and I had a slow ride because I didn't finish this until a month and a week later, middle of October. So this stars Raina, who, the first thing, when you first read it, the chapter's actually called Booty Cheeks or something like that. And I never knew what the term booty cheeks was until I read this. That is explained in the book when you sweat and then it shows up on the car seats. Don't be sweating. Don't be sweating in my car seat either. Don't be sweating in my car seat either. But anyway, we follow Raina, who is surrounded by, as far as her friends go, they're in relationships. She wants a man, and she's constantly going on dates, and there's, with these dates that she's going on, things that she doesn't like. So she ends up opening this spell book, I don't know, and she casts a spell that's like, I want a boyfriend. She wanted like a boyfriend or whatever, and then the next thing, you know, and I don't remember if the main guy, well, he's a demon, had a name except for demon. He shows up, and this isn't. So yeah, she casts a spell without meaning it. This demon shows up, and he's like, "What do you need from me?" And she was really drunk, so then they, you know, have fun. Wildest I ever read in a book. Not gonna lie. If you do read it, well, I would only recommend it for those scenes. Those scenes were crazy. But as far as plot goes, you know, okay, he's there now, and things unfold. I gave it a 3 because as far as plot goes, meh, but the smut, crazy. Have at it if you do want to read it. The next book is Elevator Pitch by Evelyn Lay. This book recently was released as well, I think in October. And you know, if you look at the cover, oh, it's gonna be here. I definitely will seek out books. If there's a black woman as the main character, I'm gonna seek it out and I'm gonna read it. So this stars Selah, who is about to turn 30. She got divorced 2 years prior. Her ex-husband was a jerk. Make sure you read the trigger warnings because there was DV in her previous relationship, so just make sure you read the trigger warnings because it does touch on subjects of that matter. I'm also stretching back like this because I'm trying, this helps me remember so I can clearly share the summary of this book. So yes, so she is gonna turn 30. She's very much like, I'm not gonna be in a relationship, I don't want to. Understandable. So she moves into this new apartment building. She's going in the elevator to go to her floor, and she meets Grayson, who also was divorced. Oh no, ex-fiance. It was her ex-fiance that she broke up. My bad. He got divorced 5 years prior because loss of love. I don't recall, but they're both in there like, I don't want to be with anyone else. They form an immediate attraction, and so they keep running into each other, and then Grayson ends up making this elevator pitch because she shares in their growing friendship about this list she has of things she wants to do before she turns 30, and he's like, well, I can definitely help you out with that. And of course, some of the things on her list are, you know, spicy. So I gave this a 4-star because Grayson is just, I mean, this is a book written by a woman, but this is one of those instances where, you know, a man written by a woman, I mean, yeah. He's a good man. He's a good man, Savannah. So I would definitely recommend it if you're looking for like a quick, fun read, little romance with representation, diversity, but just make sure you read the trigger warnings because there are some touching subject matters. The next book I read on Kindle is Restore Me by J.L. Seegers. This is the first book in the New Haven series. These are all standalones, each book in this series. So this stars Sloane and Dominic. Those are the two romantic interests. Sloane's husband, who was Dominic's best friend, died 5 years prior to the events of this book. And that is a death that's definitely, you know, hard for her to overcome. She's best friends with her sister-in-law from that marriage, and her sister-in-law very much is encouraging her to date, and she's like, about it. Dominic has appeared to hate Sloane throughout her relationship with his best friend who she's married to, and so they end up having to work on a project together for work, and there's a night where things change and they end up having a secret affair, even though it's not an affair because they're both single. What is the trope where it's like, oh, we're gonna secretly hook up and we can't tell anyone because if we do, then it's gonna be bad, but we're also doing this arrangement because we don't want to be. This is the same kind of like elevator pitch, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, because elevator pitch, they were like, we don't want to be in a relationship, we're gonna hook up, whatever. That's the same thing here, and maybe, for me, I don't really like reading back-to-back the same kind of vibe, and so I did give this a 4-star. I also didn't really like, some of the things didn't make sense how it ended, but I will say I do like that they were older. I think they were like mid-30s, the main characters, which I love. I need variety. I need variety in the things I read, and so this wasn't exactly like elevator pitch, but I don't know. Reading it afterwards, I know people have given it 5 stars. I might reread it again another time or read the other books in the New Haven series. I don't know if any of this is making sense or... Okay, moving on to the next book. This one, I listened to it in audiobook, and if you are someone in the book community, you've probably heard of Hooked by Emily McIntyre's the first one. And then I will talk about Scarred by Emily McIntyre, which is the other one I read from this whole Happily Never After series. Essentially, if you haven't heard about it, Hooked, or each book in the series, is about the villains from each of these Disney movies. They're not retellings. So essentially the villains win, the villains get the girl from the Disney movies that she took some inspiration for each book. There we go! There we go, we know how to use our words. So the first one I listened to is Hooked. So stars Hook, who also goes by James, and the main woman in this is Wendy, and the gag is that Peter Pan is her dad in this. And Peter Pan's super rich, he's got like an aircraft. She's funny. I will say Emily is funny with like the way that she played things on. Like Peter Pan has like an airplane business. I don't know the actual like smart word to use for that, but thought that was funny. So yeah, also the gag is that Peter Pan is also a villain in this. That's not really a surprise though. So I like slow burn, and I don't think they've really slowly burned. Wendy and Hook, to me, I don't feel like it was a slow burn. I like slower progressions. And so it didn't take long for them to like go on their first date or whatever. So yeah, they're trying to manage whatever they are in this book. Hook is like 27, I think, and Wendy is like 20, so there's a little bit of a age gap. That's not too crazy to me, but like there's like a 7-year difference. So that's another detail. I don't know if I'm making any sense. This is a super popular series. I think I gave it a 4-star though because the smut was crazy. But then again, like, I just felt exhausted because, okay, so if you recall the last books I said, and this is in the order I read them. Okay, I accidentally summoned a demon boyfriend, elevator pitch, blah, oh, elevator pitch, restore me, Hooked, and then Scarred, smut, romance. I was kind of like, okay, I can't give this a 5, but I'm gonna give it a 4 because, like, objectively, like, I know that this is, like, good as far as, like, smut goes and romance and stuff, but I was getting exhausted. So, don't recommend if you're, like, flippant like me, but I read Hooked, or listened to Hooked, and then the next one is Scarred, which has to do with, if you can't tell from the title, Scar from The Lion King, except they're humans, and his name is Tristan. And so Tristan and Michael is Mufasa, or the equivalent of Mufasa in The Lion King. Michael is going to take the throne to be king, and Beatrice, what was her name? Sophie? Beatrice, the girl. I don't know who she is equivalent in The Lion King. I didn't watch the second movie. I only saw the first one. Whoever she is, ends up being betrothed to Michael, and she don't really like Michael. She has her own goals for what she's gonna do, because their family is the reason why her empire, like, fell apart, and her family, or whatever. So through her trying to, like, get her vengeance and get her way to the throne so that she can, you know, do her boss things, she and Tristan end up forming, you know, a bond. And I did like Scarred more than Hooked because it was a slower, I mean, the stakes were high too, because it's like, ooh, she's betrothed to Michael, ooh, you know, like, ugh. She's betrothed to his brother, whoa, crazy, like, that's really gonna put a damper on things. But I definitely, after I listened to the audiobook of this, I gave this a 4-star too. I was like, I cannot read another romance. I didn't listen to that though, because now we're gonna go to the physical books, okay? The first one is The Boyfriend by Frida McFadden, and if you know anything about me, you know Miss Frida McFadden is my girl. I do love her writing, I love her books. However, the last few ones I've read from her, I've questioned them. I've been like, what are we doing here? Except this one is God tier. This one is as good, if not better than The Housemaid, in my opinion. This one shocked me. I was actually super gagged at the plot twist. I was very intrigued. I kept wanting to read. I finished this within a day or two. It was that crazy. So you star Sydney, who is going on dates and whatnot, not having the best time, and she ends up meeting who is known as the boyfriend in this book. I think his name was Tom, but she meets him and they start to date, but there are some questionable things about him. And the way this book goes is it runs in two different times. So this follows the past. So there's a before and after. So it follows the past, which follows Tom's point of view of him in high school and him dating this girl who he was super in love with. So you follow that and the present, and it just unfolds in a way that you don't see coming. And you're I don't want to say too much because I don't want to, it just like, Frida, this is chef's kiss. This is so good. This is just so good. I will not speak more about this because I'm afraid I'm gonna spoil. You have to read it. You have to read it. Promise. Pinky promise. Okay, thank you. Okay. That was 5 stars. Obviously. Okay, the next book is The Weight of Blood by Tiffany D. Jackson. This is a young adult horror, and I've been opening myself up to horror because I'm kind of getting tired of romance right now, and so I'm trying to switch it up. And so I've already read from Tiffany D. Jackson at this point, Monday's Not Coming, and that book made me cry. That book was so impactful, and that was beyond a 5 stars. So I was like, you know, Tiffany, I'm gonna check out some more of your books. And so, checked out The Weight of Blood. So, trigger warning. Before you read this, there's a lot of racism that happens in this book. And it pissed me off a lot, but it made this good because you kept reading to figure out how things were going to unfold. This takes place in the year 2014 in this city in North Carolina called Springville. And this takes place at this high school where they only have like 4 or 5 black students. It's really small. And this follows the main girl, Maddie, who is biracial. She had kept that a secret that she was biracial until one day it started to rain, and then her hair, because she would straighten it a lot. Her father, she lived with her father who is white, and he constantly made her straighten her hair so that no one would know that she's biracial. So they end up finding out that she's biracial, and this is a girl who's constantly gotten bullied prior to them even finding out that she was black. So, you follow her, and you follow, leading up to this massacre that ends up happening on the prom night, where most of them are wiped out. And so, you follow the timeline from the present, and the future, and back, and there ends up being snippets of people who are like a podcast talking about. This was really good. This was really, really, really good. This was really good. I keep saying that because really I don't know. It was really good. This was really good. This was fantastic. This was fantastic. Message, the moral message, and the way things unfolded, and my mouth was gagged at the end. I mean, this had everything that I needed after all the smut I read. Okay, I needed to reset a little bit. I needed to not have that. And so the boyfriend in this, if I had to give MVPs this month, these two. I know I haven't even gone to the rest of the books, but like MVPs. My spacey brain forgot to include fang fiction because I have it in a separate section of books that are even more S tier. Like I said, The Boyfriend and The Weight of Blood, and then fang fiction. How did I forget fang fiction? Fanfiction by Kate Stayman London was incredible. It is so perfect. It emulates the fangirl experience to a T. It took me like 2 or 3 days to read this. I loved it so much. Essentially, you star Tess, who is she and trigger warning. She was a survivor, and so she does drop out of grad school due to that. But her former best friend is like, yo, come to my birthday, because guess what they had in common? Big fans of the book series called Blood Feuds, which is about rival vampire clans. It's a huge thing in this universe. They're so obsessed with it. So she goes to the birthday party, and then she ends up coming across the man who, so she leaves, but then she ends up meeting one of the characters from Blood Feuds. She finds out that it's real, essentially. So you go along this adventure with Tess, and her best friend ends up having her own paranormal romance in the midst of this. It was just so good. It was so good. If you've ever been a fangirl, you know what this life is like. It doesn't matter what the fandom is. You know what this life is like. I can't believe I forgot to include this in the video. I have to keep it in the S++ tier section of my bookshelf, so I did overlook it. Please read fan fiction. This was great. Amazing. Now we're getting to the pile that was like a little bit meh. So first, we have White Smoke by Tiffany D. Jackson. So all that rave I just gave, I read this first. I read The Weight of Blood first. Then I read White Smoke. Think of The Haunting on Hill House meets Get Out. Follows this family. This girl, can't remember her name honestly. She has a younger brother. And her mom marries this white man, and he has a daughter who's also white. So they all move to this house that they got for free or whatever. But there's weird things that happen in this house. So the whole, like, ghost behavior, and this kind of unravels in a way that you wouldn't expect. There's a lot of like race related things that happen in this book, so that kind of saved it at times for me, but not my favorite of Tiffany D. Jackson, especially after you read Weight of Blood. Nothing could compare, except for Monday's Not Coming. That one was also, but this was so S tier, and then I read this afterwards, and I was like, oh, okay, not bad, not great, good-ish. So the next book we have is Dreadful by Caitlin Rozakis. I don't know if I'm saying this right. This one also kind of like I accidentally summoned a demon boyfriend. Took me a little bit to read. This is a comedy, fantasy, adult. This stars the dark, or he's not called the Dark One, what is he called? The Dreadlord, who wakes up with his memories gone, and he doesn't have eyebrows, and he's bald or something. So then he puts eyebrows back on his face. And he's like, why don't I remember anything? I thought I was evil. So because he doesn't have any memories, he's like, well, was that okay for me to be evil? Like, yeah, and you follow along for that. I love comedy. I like to giggle in a book and whatnot, but there were times where I was bored, but not bored enough to DNF, but bored. There's a moral message underneath this, that entails about the good versus evil, which I thought was good, but I don't know. Like, not the best of, if you're looking for like comedy or I don't even think paranormal is the right word, but like comedy fantasy books, like My Roommate is a Vampire, best. I would read that over this. It does that better, I think, the whole like, haha, we're trying to laugh here, but I think I gave it a 3. I don't know. I have to double check. But yeah, that was Dreadful. So the next book we have is Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson. Before you read this, if you decide to, look at the trigger warnings, please. My girl Tiffany, she swore that this is not about R. Kelly, that the main guy is not influenced by R. Kelly, and I'm gonna believe you, but I couldn't help but have that thought, because this follows this girl named Enchanted, who wakes up and the guy who's not R. Kelly is dead, and you follow the before, and she is 17 and she wants to become a singer, so she goes to this audition and she meets the guy who's not R. Kelly, and not R. Kelly ends up being like, yo, I can make you a star or whatever, because she doesn't, whatever. So she's like, oh my god, yes. So then they're texting, it's inappropriate, maybe gross, honestly, a lot of it. Like, I understand why, because the message has to be there about why this is not okay. This one, I had to take a shower afterwards, I'm not gonna lie. It's so terrifying too, because this is something that does happen in real life. To be serious for a moment, this has happened. The guy, not R. Kelly in this book, that's happened, and it continues to happen in the industry. So that is something that is an important message that should be out there, and I get that. I don't know how to end off on this one. So the last book we have is one that I've had on my list for a long time that I finally got to because I am trying to switch it up, is Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. This is a young adult fantasy that takes place in Nigeria. Essentially, this stars Zaylee, who lost her mom due to the injustice that happens in their monarchy. The monarchy does not like magic. They do not like it if you even have magic. If you have, and you can tell if someone has magic in this land because they have white hair. So they ended up years prior, the reason her mom died was because there was a raid to eradicate anyone who had magic. Ooh, this is where I mess up some details, so please correct me if I mistaken anything. So Zaylee, and she has her brother Zayn, they live with their father, and they have Mama Akbad, who is their, like, not grandmother or related by birth, but just someone who's also a mentor for them. So one day Zaylee is going to sell something, and she ends up meeting Amari, who is the princess of this monarchy. She ends up, I don't want to say too much because, like, it's not in the summary, any of this. I'm kind of like giving you a little bit of an intro. She realizes how corrupt the monarchy is. I won't say what exactly happened, but she ends up finding out. So they cross paths and then they end up on an adventure. This follows the point of view of Zaylee, Amari, and then Anan. Anan is Amari's brother, who is the prince of this monarchy, who is trying to chase them down. There were times where, you know, I mean, this is a very lengthy book, so keep that in mind. Was I in tune all the time? No. But it's still really good. I gave it a 5-star because the way everything came together in their adventure, the message behind it. I screamed because I love it when authors actually put the title of the book in the book you're reading it, and so towards the end it was like, we are children of blood and bone, and I said, whoa, okay ma'am, okay, you ate with that, and then the way this ended, just like, it's like, so I immediately need to start, so I'm listening to the audiobook of Children of Virtue and Vengeance right now, so I'll be excited to share that in the November reading wrap-up when I'm done with that, because I will definitely finish it before November's over. But I would recommend this. I just would recommend that you be in a headspace. I mean, it's the same with the Tiffany D. Jackson books, read the trigger warnings. There aren't in this, but this is a very lengthy book. This is a full-on series, and I needed to be in a headspace to be able to take in all the new information and just the lore of this. So that was Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. So that concludes the reading wrap up for October. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you agree, disagree, really agreed, you know, feel free to comment below. If you've read any of these, let me know if you have. I would love to chat about them. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.